just in terms of your battle plan. So we'll start with Nisha. You're obviously taking it quite soon. What do you think you're going to do differently? What's your battle plan from this?
I think so. We'll definitely do ice earlier, and pick up. Well, expand it a bit earlier, like with the cluster headache one I did, like exploring more. If someone says they've had a negative experience with a family member, ask a bit more. There's more to find probably. And then I guess in negotiation, I never thought about kind of putting the responsibility back on this is what the NHS says we're meant to do. I never thought about that. So that's something I would think about.
Fantastic. Yeah, great. You're going to be faced with a lot of negotiations. We know the word dilemma is there, so use it, and it can work to your favor. But put it out there earlier rather than later, so that you can get into that weighted section of the clinical management section. But for February, you're going to be absolutely fine. You're going to smash this exam, absolutely smash it. I've got no worries about you at all. But do study the consults after today and look at how I negotiate and kind of use this word slightly earlier rather than later.
Yeah, thanks.
Your predicted score will definitely be, for me, the pass marks in the 70s. You'll be scoring in the 90s. I mean, you have the potential to be a top scorer. It's really with the time that you have, but definitely I would think realistically it's a high 80s, 90s score for you. That's what you should be aiming at basically for your February sitting. Moni, what about you? What are you going to do differently?
I've got a bit of work today. I think women's health, I need to look at that.
Yeah.
I think I panic too much sometimes when something comes up where I'm like, oh, catches me off guard. I think I need to slow down a bit and maybe compose myself again.
Yeah.
I think that's where when I get panicked, I think that's where the perfect and all that comes out. When I'm all right, I think
it's so interesting, isn't it? It's a paradoxical thing. It's like I'm so worried, but everything's perfect. It's just like, wait,
yeah.
Yeah. So that processing word, just got to get out of that. I mean,
Yeah.
you're a very nice guy, very level-headed, but I think your brain's a bit cluttered at times.
Yeah.
So the thing is, you're thinking too much ahead, whereas you have to be much more in the moment. But you'll be fine. I've got absolutely no doubt you're gonna be fine now. May is actually quite late. I mean, you want to take this when you're peaking. Peaking is generally around 10 weeks after this course.
Okay.
If you have to work, I personally think you need to crack on. You need to get this out. You need to get this done in April. Really, May's way too long. You're going to burn out with SCA practice if you wait.
Okay.
You'll be absolutely, even a March sitting would be feasible, but April would be definitely safer. But don't wait till May. That's a bore. It's an absolute bore.
Okay.
Just crack on, and you'll be fine. You'll smash this. There's been some lovely stuff from you, but yeah, this aspect of this processing word, got to get it removed basically. Joanna, what about yourself?
The big three things, well, I guess in each consult. So the results one, getting the result in early, and then using the patient's eyes to inform my management plan. And actually, if there's anything obvious, don't leave it till later. Like, just call it out then and there.
Call it out. Say it as it is.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. You've been brilliant.
A dilemma as well, use the word. And I think when you like a patient, don't avoid conflict. Because I think that's what happened I didn't want to fight, but actually you have to do it.
I love that. See, angry patients after 22 years of general practice. I love angry patients. I love them to bits. You see, the one that you have to be worried about is the one who wants to be your friend. That's what you want. That's the one you want to worry about. The complaint will never come from the angry patient generally. It's the one you've done everything for, 150%. That's where your complaint's coming from. Call it out. Call it as it is. Spade's a spade, that's it. I like that. And what's really interesting is no one teaches us negotiation skills in medical school. That's the brilliant thing, isn't it? Only 21 years of marriage can teach you that. So, anyway, you'll be fine. Really relatable, very good tonal energy. But yeah, call it out. Verbalize the dilemma earlier. Definitely use the ice earlier to focus your attention. The energy is all there. It's great. But give yourself enough time in that management section is going to be key. But you'll smash this for and again, your April absolutely fine. I mean, again, a March sitting might be absolutely fine. April's definitely going to be very safe for you, but even March, be all right. Mohammed, what about you? What do you think you're going to do differently?
Yeah, I think being more curious in data gathering, trying to pick up the cues.
Yeah.
That's something I work about, because I usually go through the red flag first, and maybe in the data gathering, not that much in detail.
Yes. Yes. And actually, it's good because you know when to escalate risk, which I think is really impressive. But the station that did kind of throw you off was definitely that HIV and confidentiality negotiation one, and it's just so important to be crystal clear with regards what the dilemma is that you're facing in those negotiation stations. So for me, your kind of risk management is actually fine. It's just about being confident in that. Even with the HRT, although you weren't that confident, you were still able to commit, which was great. But negotiation skills is something that you will want to work on. Those kind of stations, patients who know what they want, not what they need. You want to do it in May. I think that's fine. I think for me,
March.
Oh, March. Sorry, March.
Yeah.
Well, March. March will should be okay, but you do need to work a bit smarter with this, I would say. I have to say. For me personally, an April sitting might be safer. You can get it done in March, but it depends on what you do from here on in. You have to practice with the right people. You see, I bet you guys aren't calling out your mates in study groups. I bet you're not doing this. You haven't been called out. Like you were called out by our role players, you were called out by me, but if you're not calling each other out on this, then you're done. You are, seriously. You are. We're going to talk about this in a second. March will be okay only if you study in the right way and you practice with the people in the right way. And then you're looking at a good kind of 80s type score. So Moniba and Joanna, for the time that you're sitting, we are really expecting a high 80s, 90 plus score, but definitely high 80s is what we're definitely expecting. Julie, what about you? What are you taking away from today? You're taking it in March, so.
I am, yeah. For me, there was a big bit about communicating diagnoses and explaining things better.
Yeah.
So something I definitely need to work on there.
Yeah.
And then in a couple of the others, there was a few big areas that maybe I just didn't pick up on. So safeguarding element in the last case.
Yes.
I thought perhaps I had more of a handle on than actually I did.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely for me to consider that kind of element.
But you're going to be fine for March. You're going to do very, very well. But yes, you're right. You at the start of the day, you said this movement between backwards and forwards. And you see, for me, that last case really highlighted that, because if I don't ask about safeguarding, if I don't ask about domestic violence, that's really going to, I need to ask about that, because that fundamentally, that one red flag can change everything of what we do. So it's just important that you, when you go into this, you go in with a mindset of risk management. What do I need to understand to make sure my plan is reactive, not just to the narrative, which you were very good at, but also reactive to risk? And just remember, no one in the exam is going to say, my husband's beating me up. They're just not going to say it. They're not going to say it. You have to ask in order to. I mean, she wasn't in this case. It wasn't the case. But in this case, she was drinking a lot of alcohol. And that was something that we would need to kind of respond to. But March, for me, is a very safe sitting for you. And again, you will score very well. It will be in the 90s and possibly higher. If it was an April sitting, you could be a top scorer. But if you just want to pass it, March is fine. But it's important just to consolidate that. And then Donald, what do you think you're going to take away from today?
So I will work on picking up the cues and addressing the cues, and probably being more curious in data gathering.
Yeah, because you're very nice. But the thing is, if you're just thinking of the next question that you want to ask, you'll never be in the moment, basically. It's not about the diagnosis. It's just, don't worry. You're going to be, every single one of you is going to be faced with a case where you're literally going to go, I have absolutely no idea what's going on. But you know what? I have enough that I've enlisted to manage risk, and that's enough. You know, and once you've done that, you'll be fine. So April is a good time for you to sit, but again, you have to work very smart with this. You've got, you know, you've got to be practicing with the right people, because if you are literally, and I've seen this for the last 20 years, study groups, the clinical casebook said this, you didn't ask about smoking. What's smoking and alcohol got to do with what we're talking about? You're calling me out on the wrong thing here. You know, this is what you really need to get comfortable with, which is tough love, you know. Because if you really want to be mates with each other, that's what you need to apply. You've got to be tough with each other, support each other in the right way, but never collude. The worst feedback you can give anybody in this exam is, you were really good, you were really nice. This means nothing. It means nothing. Because objectively, what does really good or really nice mean when it comes to the 16 marking competencies of the SCA? It doesn't mean anything. You know, so you've got to be crystal clear on how you're going to help each other. And if the case hasn't gone well, support each other, but just play the case out again and get it right. Use the mantras, basically. Okay? So